All right. Good morning, good evening, and g'day wherever you might be. This is Gunpla Insider. For those of you that have watched along, you've seen that I've been sitting down having some sort of grassroots casual conversations with some of the builders. It's been primarily Australian builders so far. We're going to go international when I can get out of bed at 2 in the morning for some of the special blokes around. Just before we go on, we do have a couple of public announcements, one being for Canadian Gundam. They look after us, and also I've got some new gear and new VMI. It might look a bit shinier to some of you from Cloud Communications. So yeah, hopefully this all comes up a little bit shinier. Tonight we've got the Ghost of Zeon, Scott Taylor. Scott, how you doing, buddy?
Good, mate. How are you?
I am very well. How's the
that's the way.
how's the Victorian weather going for you?
Good, actually. It's been quite pleasant last week and a half or so. It's quite mild getting into spring now, early spring. So
Yeah, right.
otherwise, apart from that, it's been bloody freezing.
Yeah, even here in Queensland, I mean, it's freezing for us. I mean, we've had at Amberley, we've had like -2.5, and then three.
That's normal for us.
Yeah, that's like summer. Yeah,
that's summer weather. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's starting to warm. I'm up pretty early, a few days a week at least, and like even this morning up, I'm like, oh, it's not so horrible. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Anywho, how's the weather? How's that sports team, etc.? We're here to talk about. I was hoping to sort of catch up. I've spoken to some builders, and I kind of wanted to get a bit of a conversation with someone who sort of walks both sides of the fence, I guess, is a way of looking at it, where you're a hobbyist. Every fighter pilot was probably running around the backyard with a little paper plane, and eventually, but the good pilots, they still love paper planes. So I sort of felt that you'd be the sort of person that could have that conversation where you're in the industry, you make a bit of money off it. At the same time, I was looking through your Facebook page. You're at a bunch of expos. You're very supportive of people. I've seen you on GBA. Your comments are always very supportive and constructive. At the same time, based on your entry to GBWC this year, you still like to have fun modelling. So,
Oh, definitely.
yeah, tell us a little bit about maybe the sort of where you grew up and why you think that at the age of I'm going to say late 30-something.
Yeah.
Okay,
39.
Yeah, at that age, what do you think is that model's still a big part of your life, apart from the fact that now you make a couple of dollars here and there? Like, give us some of that info.
Well, basically, it's an escape.
Yeah.
That's plain and simple. I can come home at the end of the day. If I'm not working, if I'm not doing extra work of a night with SMS, I'm doing sitting out here doing work on my models. I can be creative. I can just create something just from a piece of plastic, really. And it's just an escape from the everyday crap that goes on. So that's why I continue to enjoy it. It's just a matter of I get to make something that other people can enjoy as well as myself. Yeah,
sure. And I guess we'll talk about SMS. What was sort of the trigger, I guess, and what was the threshold where you went, I'm going to do that? Because a lot of us, I've been in a bunch of hobbies where, like, I used to be big into drones, and there was a point where, before the kind of like the mining boom of drones, you could make money off drones, doing photography and stuff like that. And then it kind of changed everything. But there's always that fear that if I make my hobby my job, I'm going to hate my hobby. I buy some RC car stuff from a couple of guys at a shop, and as much as they love doing it, they don't touch cars in their spare time because they're just sick of seeing it. Tell us about how you deal with that. I mean, you're obviously quite passionate.
Yeah, well, that's one of the main things. Is the passionate attitude behind it. Also, it's not really the hobby and the business that I've got. They correspond with each other, but they don't affect each other. If you can understand that. Yeah. I might be bottling paint and making new products and things all day, but then I get to use those products to create things with the hobby that I love. So it doesn't, while it sort of impacts each other, it doesn't directly impact you can understand that.
Yeah.
It's
I guess paint is
it doesn't take away the enjoyment because like if I'm working away just bottling paint all day, I'm not actually airbrushing. I'm not doing stuff that I normally would with a model. which is if you did the same thing over and over again, that's when your hobby turns. Well, if your hobby's turned into a business, then it ruins your hobby. That's because you're doing your hobby as 100% of the time. Whereas on sort of, bottling paint's like a small amount, like creating the products and stuff is just a small amount of the hobby.
So it's only it's only an element of the process. It's not. It'd be different if you were punching out kits, like doing garage molds and things like that. It'd be a bit different because you'd have to make them up, and that would be much more time involved. Cool. So let's have I'm going to have a bit of a look at some of the stuff. We're going to go straight to your GBWC entry here now. Do you want to sort of give us a bit of a summary of that spiel as I flick through a couple of pictures?
Basically, it was just to prove that you can actually still have fun while you're making your models. A lot of people with GBWC, it's a very serious competition at the top end. I've been there years ago. I was super serious. I had to win. I was out to win all the time. But I got to a point I just realised it's not about winning.
Yeah,
it's about creating something that you enjoy. Other people may or may not enjoy, but as long as you're happy with the end product, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this entry with the dinosaur with the big guns is to prove it's to mold two of my favourite things together, so Gundam and dinosaurs, and to prove that it's just not about trying to outdo everyone else. It's just about creating something that's fun that you're happy with yourself. Yeah.
And like this year was my first GBWC, and it was there was a lot going on. It was a big, amazing circus, and I drank litres and litres and litres of the Kool-Aid. I will not deny it. I think next year will be different. I've made some friends since then. I've been in touch with a few people since then that I probably just brushed shoulders and went, "Oh, g'day, mate." Maybe chatted with them a bit, at the barbecue or even on the Sunday when it was all a bit more chilled. And next time it'll be much more about catching up with those people that you really enjoy and look forward to. You see sort of eye to eye with the dinosaurs. I mean, every boy loves dinosaurs, but you're 39 years old, mate. And you're a paleontologist. What's the go?
You don't have to grow up.
That's right.
When I was a kid, dinosaurs, everything. I loved dinosaurs. I loved dinosaurs when I was a teenager, and that still wasn't so much in my 20s. Late teens, early 20s, boys doing boys things, drinking girls, etc., etc. But
girls.
As you get further on, get to your late 20s, you settle down, you start working, you get married, you have kids, etc. Then you realise actually the stuff when you're a kid was actually fun, and you shouldn't have given that up in that sort of time period. So then you go back to it. So I've never really given up on the dinosaurs, but I've just had a resurgence in the recent years, just through model kits. And how that originally came about is I started with doing Gundam, doing the Gunpla stuff. Then for some reason I twigged that I had in storage somewhere that I had Jurassic Park models, actual plastic snap fit models. I'll glue together models around. And then I found them, dug them out of the shed, they were in a box, and then I thought this is going to be cool, put them all together, did a couple of paint jobs in them, loved it, so then I moved on to some resin, moved on to some other plastic kits, and then some toy repaints, and then it's just sort of ballooned from there. And it's just a matter of just dinosaurs are cool.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, that's it's a 1:10 scale T-Rex bust.
So
it's produced by. That's the size of an AFL football.
Wow,
it's massive. You can probably if you go back to me on the screen, it's actually above me.
Oh yeah, there he is.
He's on the top shelf up there.
Grabbing at the duck to be up there.
Just loitering behind me. That's actually made by a fella, Paul Tannenpong in the US. He's got a company called Blue Dinos, and he sells through. He's got an Etsy shop. He's got this one. He's got a Regaliceratops bust, and he's got a Carnotaurus bust. I think it was a Carnotaurus bust. Then he also does replica stuff like teeth and claws and things like that. He's never met the guy, but I've had a lot to do with him on Facebook and just stuff like this. Like this was featured in the book that I wrote. I've let him use the photos and he showed them around, all sort of stuff. He's a real top bloke. So if anyone's actually interested in dinosaur busts and stuff, look him up, Blue Dinos.
Right, no worries. It's like most people are doing like Sananju busts and stuff. And you're like,
dinosaurs.
Totally agree. Yeah. We, when we were in Japan, we went and did the Jurassic Park ride.
That'd be awesome.
It's like a log ride. We took we took our 6-year-old daughter on that. We said, it's all going to be fine. And we all crapped ourselves. She may need therapy. Fortunately, our mother's a psychologist, so she'll hook her up. Lots of dinosaurs, mate. Lots of dinosaurs.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are quick and easy to do. So, like, some of them are just an afternoon project because a lot of them are just using just figure repaints and things like that. So they're good to practice on. So a lot of the little figures that I just practice the skin patterns and things like that on them before I transfer them over to a bigger model. It's the same principle I do with Gunpla is I'll work on a high grade to test out some new technique and then move across to a master grade or something bigger. Same sort of principle again. So this one you got on the screen there is it's a figure of a Gastonia.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. That was actually the base for that. I actually did as a demo at Andrew's Hobbies one Saturday at a build day.
Yeah.
And Mick Bradshaw from the IPMS, we did a dual demo, one doing diorama work and gram work.
So you just knocked that base up in like an hour or something?
Yeah, the majority of that was done within an hour, and then I finished off at home, which was another half hour, so an hour and a half all up to do that base. And it's pretty much the base of it's cork, so cork tiling that I got from Bunnings.
Yeah.
A little bit of insulation foam at the top to make that rise.
Yeah. And
the rest of it's just all airbrushed with earth colours, and then on the top of it's actually real dirt from the garden. Gone outside and got a bit of dry dirt and made sure it was nice and fine. And it was not even that; it was just a little cup, and I just went in and just dug it out of the garden with my hands.
Yeah, once you sort of got that base colour, you don't need a lot.
No, just enough to make it look natural.
Yeah.
And the same sort of principle, I'll use that. That's that principle on my GBWC entry with the dinosaur with the big guns.
Yeah.
It was transferring those techniques on a smaller model to a larger model. So it's practicing first before you move it across to something else.
Yeah. But let's have a look. You can see your Facebook page. Let's go through it. Maybe go back in I like to call it the Wayback Machine.
The archives.
The archives. Go back to some early Gunpla because that's kind of what we like. I love this. I've got to get this eventually. And maybe if you spot one that you kind of think was maybe like a real Gunpla turning point.
There's plenty of them. It's a bit hard to see on my screen. Maybe go. It's bigger. If you keep scrolling down, the goof flight type there was one of the earliest ones.
Where is this one?
Now, keep scrolling down. Sorry.
That's the bottom.
Should be a few more in there.
Let's go with this one. Let's have a look at this. This is the first Gunpla you've got on the. Talk us through this one.
Oh yes. Now that one was the first ever entry I did into GBWC.
Wow.
But then it was called Backup then, so it was the Bandai Action Kit Universal Cup. That was the year before GBWC started proper. So this was 2000.
Isn't enough to say.
Yeah, that's why they sort of made it a bit more easier because Backup was always a weird name. But this one originally it started just the Zaku only. And I had the Zaku on base by itself, and it was swinging the axe midair, and everyone loved it. And I thought, I need to take it up a notch before I took it to Sydney because this was a couple of months before. We had it in June or July 2010. The first one, and that's when Ryan popped up and said, we're going to have our very first one. Bandai wants us to have a backhook then, GWC.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, no, I'm going to do this. Might be the only chance I'll ever do this. I might do it. I'll go all out. And that's when I added the GM to it and ripped its arms off and just showed the superiority of Zeon, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
That style, the style of the Zaku there, you see, it's got lots of cutouts and little shapes and things all over it. That was the style at the time. It was sort of like the popular thing to do.
It's kind of like
make it like steampunky. Yeah, like steampunky sort of look. Yeah, a lot of that's bits of styrene tubing and shapes and channels and things like that, and other bits of Gunpla. So there's a bit on the shoulder there's Gunpla, some vent or something, and then there was wire. I just use enamel coated wire, things like that. The chain itself is just 2010.
Oh wow! Seems like so long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only been in the game for 8 or 9 months or something, but it just it seems like so long ago. I mean, there must be. People talk about like a 2010 kit. It's horrible and terrible, and like if you look at that, you wouldn't know. It still looks great.
So it's actually the Master Grade Zaku 2.0, and that's the GM Master Grade 2.0 as well.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But that actual GM, I didn't really like that one. That's why I got destroyed. There you go. That's with the second place. That's the second place medal because we didn't have trophies and we had medals.
Oh, you got second place for that?
So I got second place for that. Oh. Billy Yao he got first place with his custom GM Spartan Striker, some one of them. He got gold, and third place was Darren Young. I'm pretty sure from memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was our very first year at GBWC, that was.
Yeah, nice. So then, is people going on about the Musha like it's, like it was just brought out yesterday, but clearly...
Oh, no, that was 2007, 2008.
Yeah, I kind of can't quite work it out unless it's been re-released recently, and now it's like
they've had a few. That was the original one. That was the original Musha. They've had, I think, maybe two or three other versions of it. That was the very, very first one. And I wasn't sure what it was from. I had to look up what it was from because it's not actually from any series. It's from the Musou Gundam, Dynasty Warriors Gundam games.
Oh right.
It's one of the bosses in that game. But it just looks awesome. So that's why I got it.
Don't mind the that one's sort of a little more mobile suit. The most recent one's got that whole sort of big fat samurai Bushido looking thing. Like this one's the proportions are still Gundam-esque. Yeah. Like even the head.
It's a really good kit to work on too.
Right.
It's one of those ones that goes together. Just no dramas at all, no seam lines, nothing. It's just sort of everything just falls into place.
All the sort of the colour separation, the gold and the reds and stuff. Were they all parts that you could paint and then put back together, or was there like a whole bunch of masking involved?
From memory, I think the only masking I did was on the chest emblem and the knee emblems there. The rest of it was all the standard, Bandai make everything different colours that all goes together. So there wasn't actually any proper masking.
Right. So good. I love Bandai. I love coloured runners. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh, yeah. I love it. It makes changing colours a lot easier too because you can just you can work out what needs to be changed instead of trying to guess.
And because they've already designed it with colour separation, you're like, well, I just need to kind of replace as opposed to
exactly.
Yeah. There's no doubt I wouldn't build Gunpla if it was all grey. Like I'm getting the courage up. I've got a few kits, white and grey things that I do want to get onto. I really I'm pretty close to maybe picking up something like the Bandai Star Wars stuff. Like some of that looks pretty good. I reckon I could probably just make that look half decent without too much work. But I watch like Aaron has recently punched out that tank with the frog on it. The chieftain. He says, I grab a little bit of time here and there, and like every night he does more work than I could do in 3 days, you know. But it's but you guys have been around. You've got all your processes down, you know. So you sort of just you get down like when someone like myself and probably most people I build with when we weather, if we're just like scratching a leg or chipping, we're like. Whereas you guys are like, whatever, yeah, oh, that's all right. Once I put a wash over it, it's not going to matter, blah, 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 blah. You know, so it's really great to sort of see the level of productivity you guys have got. Yeah. We'll look at...
So that Musha as well, that was one of the ones I've had in Model Art magazine because I've been in Australian Model Art always about 7 or 8 times now. Most of the Gundam, one dinosaur, but the rest of it's all all Gundam stuff. I think that was the second article I had in there in late 2008. That one for the Musha. Before that, I had the Camphor. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's just. Yeah, that was the original. That was the very first article I had in a magazine. That one. That was 2006, I think, 2007.
Yeah, cool.
Something like that. That's Model Art Australia. So that magazine's been around for a long, long time, like 90s sort of thing. Made by a fella called Frank Morgan, and he's got an editorial team. They're based in Melbourne. They're well known within the scale modelling community in Australia in general, not just in general. I mean by everything. So I've had a few articles in there.
Did you come from scale modelling? Do you think? And then because like when we while you're talking about that, I'll just flick through some of your articles. Like looking through your feed, you know, there's tanks and there's the machine Krieger stuff and all that stuff. But did you sort of come from a scale background and then into Gunpla? Because like some people they can't really, you know, some of the rivet counters they can't kind of step outside the desire to be as realistic as possible. Like there are some guys that can model mech and still enjoy the fun of Gunpla, but some guys kind of look at it and they go, I need legit oil stains, I need to see diesel fumes, I need that. Like, was it hard for you to kind of just go off and do something else, or were you able to?
No, it was easy. I originally started with Gundam. I had, like, when I was younger, I remember the first model I actually had was a Tomcat. I think it was just a grey Tomcat. I was only a little kid. Glued it all together, didn't paint it, didn't know what to do with it, you know. So after that, I got those Jurassic Park models and then just sort of glued them together, didn't do anything with them. And then later on, would have been 2004-ish, I think. I've been working at a factory in Ballarat here where I live as Hakubaku, which is a Japanese noodle factory. And the guys that were the managers of the department that were flown over from the Japanese headquarters, then they'd come over and set the factory up and got everything running and stuff because it was a subsidiary of the Japanese company. And the fellow that we had I was working directly under, he was just talking about anime and stuff one day for some reason, because this is around the time I still am heavily into Dragon Ball. And we started talking that, and he said about Gundam, and I said, I know a little bit about it. I didn't know much about it. Then we'd only been really shown Gundam Wing, like most Western countries at the time. So I knew roughly what it was, but I didn't know too much. So talking to him more, he said, he goes, I actually build the models and stuff. I said, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And he said, have a look them up when you go home. So I went home, got on the computer, looked them up, and I thought, this is pretty cool. I can do this. So then looked at it for a little while, found a few places in Melbourne that stocked it. I remember driving down one Saturday, I think it was, Saturday or Sunday on the weekend, and I picked up a high-grade Death Size HAL, in the black box, the 144 scale.
Yeah.
Which I've still got somewhere hiding around up there somewhere. That's one of those ones that I sort of keep, and I'll pull out one day and just look at it and think, how shit was that? Compared to it.
Got one down there, my first one it's not terrible, but there's other shelves above it. It's whatever.
Yeah. But I never wanted to throw this one out because I always wanted to remember that very first one that got me started.
Yeah.
And and it was all hand brushed with enamel paint because I didn't know nothing about paint or models at that stage.
Yeah,
so I went to the hobby shop in town here and said to them, they said, I just paint it with enamel paint. So I gave it a go, and I was painting away and thinking, no, it's not too bad. It's pretty rough now. But still, it looked pretty. At the end of the day, I thought, it's not too bad from the first go. I had a little base for it, put it aside. Then I ended up getting another high-grade kit. Was it the Zaku 2 Gundam set from 008 MS team?
Oh, yes.
The photos of that one's on the Facebook page, if you can find that one. It's the original. That was the very first one I could actually proudly put on the internet and say I did it.
Right,
That's one of the older ones there. Even if you go onto my actual website, it's on the website. It's a lot easier to find.
Yeah, all right. Well, you keep chatting away, and I'll find it.
Yeah. So that was the first one I just started doing a bit of modifications and posing and things like that. Made it look cool. Then put on a few groups, forums at the time, not groups. And they gave me some feedback on how to change things. And I mucked around a bit, and got a little bit better, and then moved on to the next project, and kept going from there. And that's around the time I sort of realised that there wasn't much in terms of resources for how-tos and tutorials at the time.
Yeah.
Everyone, you ask a question in a forum and you just get bagged straight. Yeah, they just bag you straight and say, just go search for it on Google, just Google it, search for it. And nothing had ever come up. So that was sort of around the time I realised that, someone needs to be able to teach people without people being scared to ask.
Yeah.
So that's when I started. At the time, I started doing just the text tutorials website here on my Ghost of Zeon site, and then a bit later on, that's when I started on the YouTube and things like that.
I was trying to find that pair you were talking about.
It's right down the very bottom.
Well, that's the bottom. That's 2006.
Keep going.
That's it.
It's below that line.
Oh, is there more? No, I've got no more. I've run out of power, Chief.
There it is there, that very last one there in the bottom with the Zaku with the sword going in his chest.
Just here somewhere? Oh, down here. This one?
Below the Zagok, yeah. Oh no, your screen's a bit slow on my side.
Right. Oh, there says something about something on the sidebar for the gallery. Something. Anywho, we'll move on. Sorry, I'm distracting you.
No, that's all right. It's probably because the website's... I'll never update that website anymore because it's too much work.
Who has websites?
I don't have enough time to sit there. Because I used to sit there and I'd take photos and then go to the computer and I'd sort them all out and change them all around. Crop them and all sorts of stuff, and I'd upload them then write a big blurb on the website what they are, and then link to it. Then it'd take me a couple of hours to do all that.
Back in
this day and age. Oh, there you go. Actually, stop right there. Sorry, on the screen there. You got the Hulk, and then you got Corythosaurus, and there's one next to it.
There we go.
Is it slowly? Yeah. There we go. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That was my second Gundam model after the Death Scythe.
So this was
HG?
HG?
That was done to HG, high grade, 1/44 scale. This was done around 2005, 2006. Yeah, 2005, end of 2005.
So these will be the same ones they put in those. They've got those like ground type war sets. Like you get
same series, same suits, just a different set.
And you get the old tank and stuff, and
these are a bit different. This set only come with those two models, so it was before the ground war sets. Yeah,
it's such a good series too. MS-18.
No, it's definitely
so gritty and dark, and it's a bit spooky even at times. Reminds me of that old, like, there's that series back in the late 80s, 90s called Vietnam, and it had all the cool kind of, like, soundtrack and stuff, and it was all, you know, LT and all that kind of stuff, Vietnam stuff. Mm.
That was the very first one I ever sort of put online. So that was the first time. And that was before I was the Ghost of Zeon too. Those sort of days I just went under Red Comet usually. So you know, when you first get into things and you decide, I'm going to be this name from this series, it's like, but soon after, I did that for a little while, and then I thought, no, that's pretty crap. So I changed it to the Ghost of Zeon. That was probably about 6 months after that.
Yeah, right. This one here looks, pardon me, pretty interesting. A lot of work to that. I think I can. Is that the one up on your shelf over your shoulder there?
Yes, right. Yeah, right over my shoulder. That was 2015 GBWC entry. Mega size Zaku. He's fully modified in terms of, like, he's got a protective cage at the front there with the anti-flying chains. Mega size, yep, 148 scale. The backpack's been changed or removed, so he's got like a canister there with the tarp on the back, so like he's carrying stuff. He's more like an explorer unit rather than an attacking unit.
Yeah.
He's got a hoist and that on the back. So he's got
you can sneak around in 48 ton of mobile too.
Yeah.
So good. I love MS8 team, and they're setting up the ambush and they're like sitting like in a gully like that. Yeah. Like I'm ex-army, I've sat in a little dirt pile for like an hour and a half waiting for someone to wander past, you know, in training and that. Except they're sitting in something the size of the Grand Canyon, hiding behind, you know, this 2/3 of a mountain sort of thing.
Yeah, that's the feet on that are buried in resin, so that's actually just a clear resin. So there's actually fish in the water too.
Oh, really?
But they're swimming around. They've got the ruins at the back there, so it's like a ruined cave, a ruined, ancient temple thing.
Yeah.
You've got the tree roots coming through the rocks and that, and then the front I've got a little guy on the motorbike, which is from a Tamiya kit.
Yeah. But it's weird the scales they picked. Like I've got a PG Mark II that I want to sort of play around with, and I'm like, it's really hard to find like a 160 set of figures. You know, I just want some ground crew or like a professor. I'm trying to find dudes on like Shapeways that might print something similar in a different scale in Aaron suggested maybe in resin, because it'll just come out that much nicer. But
definitely. Yeah, resin's a better choice than 3D prints. The Bandai scales, 1 to 100th is not real popular outside of Gundam. It's in the world of tanks and planes and things like that. It's 72nd scale for the small scale tanks. Small scale planes is like 144th scale, so that matches up with Gundams. But then the larger planes are usually around 148, so similar to this kit here. And the military stuff's usually around 135th, which is similar to the hard graph line of Bandai stuff. So some of their tanks and jeeps, and they got the Zaku heads, things like that. They all match with 135th. But the general, 100th, 160th don't really match up with any scale, unless you start looking at railway figures, and in that case, it's still a little bit of discrepancy when you put them side by side.
Yeah, I used some HO cows for my GM Sniper 2 for GBWC this year, and a couple were like, what scale are they? I'm like, they're 1 to close enough. You know, they're just kind of like just a little bit fat, a little bit like they'd be, instead of cow being this big, the cow's like this big. It's like, nah, they're just cows.
Well, HO is technically 1 to 87, I'm pretty sure. So HO is actually half of O scale, so O scale's 40 something, something like that. And then N scale is 1 to 150th, which is close to 144th. So they're the two main scales people use in train stuff to match up with Gundam.
Yeah, right. I was trying to find the famous Zegok having a nap. Where is it?
You should be just down a little bit more.
It's probably the one that I think most people would have seen and gone, "Oh yeah, I know what I did."
Actually, yeah, that was 2016's entry.
Oh, was it? Might be,
yeah.
Hiding out. I know when I kind of got my RGZ, like I was like, "Oh," and you were like, "You can do this stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, some people can." Where's the rat bag thing?
It was there a second ago. It's down a bit. It's not far off the top. The master grade one I wanted to, the plan was to try and replicate the RG in MG. I come close, but not as accurate as an RG. But it was very popular at the time. That year, I didn't place that year at GBWC. It was the second year I didn't place because I placed. That's a different Zugok, sorry. That's I thought you were talking about the red candy one. No, that one was actually this one, the long forgotten one, was actually a one we did for. We had a Gunpla Builders Australia challenge that I'd set for everyone to do just heavily weathered and rusted out, and they'd forgotten. It was called Long Forgotten.
Yeah.
Forgotten Relics was the challenge we did. And this was my entry. It was just pretty much a high grade, and I destroyed it and made it look like it had been sitting there forever. And it was all rusted up and falling apart, and like I added a spring in the arm there. It's been torn off.
Just looking at my Zigok, is there? Oh yeah, I thought it might have been the Zigok E, which is a terrible kit.
Oh yeah, no, this is actually the $13 high grade. That's how much they cost at Hobby Code when I bought it. It was 2/5 of stuff all.
Good. This looks like
pretty cheap.
It's like in the bottom of a fish tank or something.
Yeah. Well, actually, you notice that it looks like it's embedded into the ground.
Yeah.
But it's actually on a wooden board.
Did you kind of like
what I've actually done is I sliced it and cut it and stuck it down, and then just built the ground up around it, so it looks like it's actually buried without burying it.
That's unreal, eh? It does look like it's 10 feet into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a method that was actually a method I picked up from a Japanese modeler called Wild River. He's got a book called G World, and he does a lot of water stuff like that. Like he has a piece of glass on the base, and that's the water. But instead of having the mobile suits in the water, he slices the legs off, and sticks the legs, and then just builds the water up around it. So it gives the impression of depth without actually burying things.
Yeah, cool. One thing I did sort of notice about your Facebook page was there's quite a lot of albums from events. Like, for example, we'll just go to the most latest one, which is
GWC.
Yeah, it is GWC, but we've bashed on about that Gunpla stuff enough.
Well, I go to a lot of shows around Australia, mostly Melbourne, because that's like an hour down the road from me. I've got one actually this Sunday in Melbourne. Yeah, in Ballarat, so I've got a show this Sunday in Glenroy in Melbourne. These photos here, Model Expo 2018. If you've never been to Model Expo, this is the largest show in Australia for scale modelling, and it's technically, from what I've been told, it's one of the largest, if not the largest, in the Southern Hemisphere. Wow. Don't quote me on that, but I've been told that before. But I've got no way of proving it. I've just been told that by the guys at IPMS because they run it. Right. But when I first started doing the Gundam stuff, I thought, I was looking around and I found it by accident. I was searching for something and it came up. This was in 2007. And that's when I thought, I want to go have a look at this. And I am the nerd. I thought, no, I'm going to enter something. So I took a couple of Gundams. One was the camphor that was ripping off the GM's head. Yeah. And I actually won a commendation award. And I thought, this is pretty cool. So I kept entering, and now what's it? 2018 now, and this is like number 11 or 12 I've been to.
Oh, wow.
And I've got a shelf full of trophies, and I've got mates that are in the committee and that. I help out with the help of the guys from Bandai and Hobby Co. We do the free Gundam workshops there for the kids. Yeah. We got club tables there from GBA, Gundam Builders Australia, and I also started trading this year. So I'll be honest.
Sorry, what was that? You just cut out a little bit there.
Oh, I'm also a trader, so I trade now with SMS Paint.
Yeah.
So I've got to do quite a bit with them guys as well. But we got shows in Melbourne coming up. I got one, as I said, this one Sunday, which will, by the time this goes to YouTube, it's already gone. We've got a new one that I'm involved in running, which is the Science Fiction Model Competition, or SFMC. That's how it's going to be held in the end of October. Last Sunday in October. I think it's October 28th. In Melton, which is just outside of Melbourne, and that's predominantly just sci-fi stuff. So Gundam, Star Wars, Star Trek, anything sci-fi.
All sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, anything that's not real world. So that's a sort of a first for Australia, I think. Most competitions have got they cover everything. The only thing that's sort of comparable will be GWC because it's Gundam only. To Canberra before, the Canberra show. I'm going there again this year to trade as well as other things like that. So, but I like to share the shows as well on my group because a lot of people can't make it from around the world or around the country. They can't travel to see the models that are on display, but they still want to see them. So, take a few photos and upload them. That's what I've always done.
Yeah. Awesome. This is one that I definitely thought this must have been a good time for Scott Taylor. Feel when you can see it. Yeah. That was all due to, I have to say thank you to the mates at Hobbyco for letting me come along to that one. I had to pay my own way, obviously, but I got an invite to go hang out with them at Shizuoka. So we got to go to the Tamiya factory, the Tamiya museum, which is what's on the screen now. And what else? We went to the Bandai factory where I got to see the production of actually the kits. That must have been unreal.
The full factory tour of Bandai. So I got to see the famous injection molding machines that are the main one, the multicolored running machines is the same as that little model kit one that goes in that they released. And then they got ones that are coloured like Zaku's and Doms. So
and there's
but
never
but the Tamiya Museum was just really awesome. Just some of the old kits. Some of these cars, just some bikes, are just fantastic. And they're like 40, 50 years old.
What is that Subaru? I'm a bit of a Subaru fan. I don't even know what that bloody car is. Yeah, and I guess like you've been modelling for quite some time, so you're probably like, I remember seeing that kit, or geez, that's familiar. It's like when you see Matchbox cars on shows, and they're like, this dude's got like this $1 million Matchbox collection. You're like, I had 2 of those, and now they're worth like $200,000 each. It's ridiculous.
The best part about the Tamiya Museum was they produced dinosaur kits, so I got to see some done up dinosaur kits in their museum, which is pretty awesome.
So the dinosaur kits, are they like bits on a runner and stuff, or
yeah, the Tamiya ones are they're just 2 halves and you glue them together, and then you got to get rid of seam lines, which is the tricky bit with plastic kits. But they're just a plastic kit like any other plastic kit.
Yeah, right. Is there anything else in your Facebook page that you want to kind of highlight or show off or anything like that?
I pretty much covered as much as the general stuff. There's a few, you can probably have a look at the 2013 GWC entry. That was the one I actually won the Australian leg with and went to Japan with.
All right. Where are we? Must be, it's 2015, 2014. Shout if you
2013.
There's the World Cup. So which one was it? What was the model?
It's not uploading on my screen, so I can't see it. It's called the Attack of Zeon, so it's got a big blue Sazabi with massive wings on its back.
Oh, is it really, 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 really sexy?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry. Piss poor planning. Yeah. It's a big blue Sazabi, you say?
Yeah, massive wings on its back.
No, that's not it. That's the 2014 one. This one's pretty rad, though.
It hasn't updated on my side. I can't see it. Oh, here we go.
That's not the one, though, is it?
Hasn't come up yet. It's a bit slow. No, that one is the nail polish entry. That one, that was actually done fully with nail polish.
Fair dinkum.
And a funny story about that is I almost got best of show at the 2016, 2015 Australian Model Expo, but I lost out to another entry because I got 2 tiny sink marks on the shoulders that I missed when I made it. I didn't fill them in properly, so I lost points. So
brutal.
Second best of show, but still, I was so proud that I got so close to being, the best model in Australia for that year. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, that was all done with nail polish, just cheap nail polish from Kmart.
That's crazy, eh? I'm going to see if I can find this 2013.
Yeah, it was before that.
There's where you go to Japan. The finals.
So it'd be before that.
Oh, here we go. The Attack of Zeon.
That's the one.
Okay. Shout when you see it. Oh, you got some.
There we go. Yep. So yeah, that was the entry. Yeah, that was the entry. Yep. They were the guy on the left there is a little walking unit that I made with a high grade Draft C, and the bottom half is actually just the torso and the wings of an SD Kshatriya.
Right.
So it's like a walking unit. The GM on the ground's the OSMS team version, one of them ones, and it's not modified at all, just damaged.
Yeah.
The base, the power plant on the side there is a power plant from a railway model kit. So it's one of them scenery kits that I built and modified it, and I scratch built the fences and things like that. Modified it a little bit. That was very painful to build.
Yeah,
because it's all styrene shapes and things that are just sort of you got to glue and hold it until it sets because they just sort of flex and move all the time. So that took ages to build. The Sazabi.
James could sympathise with all his bunker work.
Yeah, could, yeah. Now the Sazabi, you can see where a lot of the parts are from. You got Kshatriya back wings there. You got Kshatriya wings on the shoulders that have been cut and modified. The little mounds that are in the back there are from the SD Kshatriya that have been cut and modified to hide. They're built to hide the mounting point of the large wings at the back.
Yeah.
The front skirt, there's parts of a Segu from Seed on the front there. What else was there? The back of the back tail is actually the shield of the Sazabi.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We can get a back view.
You can sort of see it sticking out a bit there.
It's actually... So it's the two parts I'll put together and just sort of,
Right.
a lot of filling, a lot of sanding to get it to like an opening, like a jaw at the back. So you got the tail going down, but you got the wings coming up at the back.
Yeah.
So it's like a big mouth opening sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then it's got the two thrusters at the back there from the Builder's Part series.
Right.
And then everything else is sort of detailed. There's a little walker again, yeah.
Yeah, the walker looks rad as. Just on its own.
Yeah.
Looks brutal.
Great parts on it, and it's also got spikes on the shoulder there from the Bandai Builder parts, and the two kits mashed together. Actually, the section that joins them in the middle there is actually a foot from the SD Zeon. So the actual... Because the SD kit comes as the flying version, but also as the feet. You can make the walking version. So I made the flying version, mucking around one day, and I had the feet. So I actually put the foot in between it to join them together.
Yeah, cool. Cool. So this one took you to Japan.
2013, but it was just the honour of actually winning and going there. Just made it worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, so what's the, like, how's, like, SMS going for you? I mean, obviously you sort of got asked the question, like, have you come so far, are you just going to keep going, or is it something that's really working out for you?
Oh, it's starting to really, really work out now. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've still got to do I'm running two businesses side by side, so it takes the time a little bit because I'm still doing the garden maintenance and landscaping during the day, SMS during the night, and on the weekends. So eventually, it's SMS hoping to be a full-time job, but it's going quite well. Like I started a bit over 2 years ago, so I started January 2016 when I started planning for it. Got a few things, I tested them out, and made sure it was a viable thing before I started putting money into it. And started around, the first release was the first week of June 2016, and that started with 10 colours. And as of next month, we'll have around 135 colours.
Wowzers! And how many of those are like? How many of those are like legit colours, and they're not like whether they be just like take a colour and kind of change the filter of it, or change something like that? Like, do you know? I don't know nothing about paint, so
the first ones we did a lot of generic colours to start off with. So you gotta have your black, you gotta have white, you gotta have red, you gotta have blue, you gotta have yellow. You gotta have all some generic colours.
Yeah.
Then we had some generic military colours, and then we had the clear colours, and then after that, that's when we started moving into more specific colours. This is where things have started to really take off, is because whilst everyone will have black and white all the time, most people want a specific colour specifically for that model they're working on.
Yeah,
that's more so in when I say the traditional areas of the modelling world. So your tanks, your planes, your cars, and things like that. They want a specific colour because they want to match it to a real world thing, and that's where things have really started to take off. Is now that I'm doing more military and plane colours in particular, and especially cars as well. I don't do specific car colours except for Italian red, racing green,
right.
School bus yellow, things like that.
You don't do the specific XY Falcon green.
No.
Oh, well, you probably should. You might want to think about that one.
The problem with that is only a handful of people want to use that paint.
Yeah.
I've got to invest money into that, and that's when it starts to get a bit funny.
Yeah, British Racing Green. Have you got that one?
Yeah, I've got British Racing Green now.
Well,
that's a generic. Yeah, it's a generic green for cars. It's everyone has racing green, and that transfers over to stuff like Gundam as well, because a lot of people use racing green on Zaku's and things too.
Yeah.
I'm doing more specific. So the last few months we're doing Russian aircraft colours, which everyone's been hounding me for, and they're just selling out like within a couple of weeks of the first runs just going. And then specific stuff for car guys. So the car guys like metallics and they like their clear colours to their candy coats, but now we've got the ultra clear coat, which is a 2K paint. That's because the car guys will absolutely love that because it gives them that glass finish to their paint.
Yeah, I've seen on Instagram some of the guys that you show up and you go, look at this fella, and there's got like a Chevy hot rod. You'd see at Summernats, and it needs that crystal clear finish.
That shine,
to look like a legit hot rod.
Yeah. So I put them on the SMS Instagram. You'll see a lot of the guys from the Aussie Custom Modelers Facebook group, which are Australian guys that just do cars.
Yeah.
And they do some fantastic work with masking, and they do a lot of pinstriping things just on model cars, and it's just fantastic what they do with the SMS paints.
Yeah.
In particular, but they do it with all sorts of different other paints as well. But some of the guys I've got onto recently, they've really, really shown how good you can get it just by a quick spray and a couple of masking.
Yeah, I just in an environment where I can't really. I just don't want to use lacquers in my room. I'm sort of like in the back of the house and stuff like that. So I'm still using MIGs and belows and stuff like that. But I think and to be honest, I've only used my airbrush, maybe 3 or 4 times, to be honest. But sort of next winter, I mean, Russell is up here and he's hounding me. He's like, he's drinking the old Kool-Aid like there's no tomorrow. But maybe like next winter, I can sort of think about, I can do a bit out the back when it's not, 98% humidity and things like that.
Yeah.
And maybe give the lacquers a bit of a crack.
Because each paint has its purpose. So I can sort of get away with using just my products on my stuff because I know how to. I'm experienced with that sort of stuff.
And it's free.
It's sort of free. It's cheap. It's cheap.
Stealing from your stash.
But so. Like for me, mine is my choice, but I still use it for me occasionally. I still use Mystic Colour occasionally, things like that. 99.9% of the time I use SMS. But there's always a place like personal preference, shades of colour, situations like your own. Like you said, you can't spray lacquers inside, things like that. There's always a reason to choose a paint, so you don't have to be stuck to one single brand all the time. You just got to choose the right product that works right for you.
Especially like you said with the colours, there would have been dudes that are doing like a Normandy, D-type Sherman, and it was a very specific colour. 3 of them hit the beach out of the 60 odd that launched, and they were a specific colour. And if a guy wants that colour, he'll buy it from whoever's dealing with it. If it's
whoever's making it,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So as you grow,
as I found a lot of, you've probably heard from stories. A lot of guys in the military and plane stuff, they always argue about paint colours. I never had much experience with that until I started actually making paint.
Yeah,
and I always get told the classic one is we do Ozcam.
Yeah.
Now the Ozcam. Apparently, I was told that the Ozcam's a secret recipe and no one can get, blah, blah, blah. No one can get it in the right, none of that. So I had my ways of getting some, and I got a colour sample, not the actual paint, but actually a colour sample of the paint, so not the actual legit stuff because you honestly can't get that. Yeah. But I got the actual proper colour swatches and stuff. Match that up, and I keep getting guys saying, no, you're wrong. No, it's not right. And I say, well, how about you try it and come back to me and tell them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were right. This is actually the proper.
Yeah.
There's still a few iffy ones, like foliage greens. If you know your plane stuff, the Spitfires from World War II and that, the RAF stuff, foliage green is a very argued over colour. I seem to have got sort of the right mix, because I haven't had any complaints yet, but people had a few people going, it's not quite right, but it'll do.
Yeah.
But things like that, because a lot of the time, a lot of the war stuff, no one knows the exact colour, because when the war was on, there was no colour photography, there was no colour film and things like that.
Yeah.
The remnants, the paint changes under the circumstances, so it goes out in the field, it gets dirty 5 seconds later, and it looks completely different.
I was going to say, the guys that the Ozcam stuff is probably because they spent their life hanging out of an ASLAV, which was already a year and a half old and already been in shoal water 6 times. And it's like, that's not what it looks like. Well, it's not covered in mud yet, so filter it and weather it, and it's boom, looks just like it now.
Yeah. Well, there's the fella, a mate that lives not far from me down here. He was ex-serving as well. He was telling me about that too. He goes, they just weather the Abrams and stuff, just an old ration sack with diesel, and they just chuck it all over the side of the vehicle, and then just drive around in the dirt for half an hour, and then pull it off, and it was weathered. Yeah. So it wasn't factory fresh anymore. There's things like that, and then people argue over the colours and that, but there's no, like, especially stuff. They got shrapnel and stuff from the war, and they're getting their colour swatches from these over time. Not wartime, but actually the period from when it was collected to the period they take the colour sample from. Things change. So it's and then you've also got to factor in things like you might not be able to tell, there's differences in the way people interpret each colour. So things like that, screens, display colour properly, the right colour properly, things like that. So there's a lot of variations that can affect the final outcome of the colour. So a colour can be a close match, but it can never be 100% unless you've got access to more like the proper stuff, which is only sort of so people who are trying to rep stuff from World War II, World War I, Vietnam sort of stuff eras, are not going to be able to get the exact
and they're also
100% match. They can get close. They'll get close to it, but they won't get the match.
Yeah, they're also relying on, to be extreme, a photo of an APC under a Agent Orange sunset, or we're talking about a different part of the world, so the lighting is different and the shade's different, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, cool. All right, buddy. Well, look, I think it's really good to catch up with you. It's really good to see, even though you're amongst it, and even though you're part of the industry and stuff, there's still a good hobbyist element to you, especially the fact that you're out at all the shows and showing all that support for the guys. And it's only when you put those yards and you stick around and you've been here for a period of time, that means that I'm here. I mean to be here. I want to be here. And when your face keeps popping up, and people start realising that they probably did 10 years ago, start realising that you're really in the hobby and you love it, and that's really important to people like myself. They're just hobbyists, because it's all good and well for someone to be really great at something, but if I can't feel like I can approach you and ask you for advice, or feel like I can just talk to you as a normal bloke, then what have we got? You might as well just be a million miles away. That's no fun at all. Yeah. So look, that was the reasons why too. As I said earlier about starting all the tutorials and YouTube stuff, is because we're all here to help. We're all here to be friends. We're all here. We should be mates with everyone. It's about helping each other. We're a minority as it is.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. All right, no worries.
Because Gundam's a minority. Gundam's a minority inside of scale modelling, which is a minority. So we're
it's big within this big sort of thing. Yeah, cool. All right, mate. Really appreciate your time. We're going to be in touch over a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not sure if I'll make the karaoke next year because it was a little out of my depth for GBWC, but I'll be able to watch your videos again because they were a hit. There's all sorts of people all around the world that are like, oh, I'm going to get to Australia now because of your karaoke videos. So, mate, thanks for your time. We'll be in touch. I may get you back again if like something amazing develops, or when you get your next trip to Japan or whatever. And
yeah, definitely.
All the best, dude. Thank you.
No worries, Scotty.